you sit into the identity framework, it causes you to be, then it influences you to do. When you sit into purpose, everything else that you do going forward flows out from the very reason why you exist. Hello, everyone. So you're as powerful as an association. You're as powerful as collaborations that you have. You're as powerful as the influence around your life. So you need to be aware of the influences around your life. You need to understand the level of influence around you and the power as to the degree they have over you. And I know you might think, what do you mean by favor? Like, what do you mean by power they have over me? What kind of power? But people are influences. Welcome to the Flavored Life channel. You are in the right place. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're a newbie here, we are so excited to have you on here. And if you're a returnee, my welcome, my thanks, my love. I'm greeting you guys. You're the real MVPs. So much thanks for like the journey so far, journeying with us, being part of the tribe. It means a lot. If you're a new person here, just understand that it's not a coincidence. It's such a divine incident. It's not random that you just scrambled or you just saw that, oh, there's a flavored life channel. No, it was quite a deliberate action of God helping, leading you right here to us. And so you're welcome to the family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Obviously, if you've not checked my previous videos, please do go back and check. It's such an amazing journey. It's literally we're journeying and we're building together. So it's always good to understand the context we're in. We're currently on the identity journey, on the identity series as it were, and I've been breaking down the steps in terms of my journey and just taking us through the whole process. And we said we'll do it in easy bites, so it's shorter videos, but in terms of one story you can relate to, take your action points or your learning points from them. And it's deliberate because I understand that a lot of times we learn from stories, we learn from people's experiences, so that way we're able to impact our world, do better, be better as it were. And so from our last video, remember I said I was going to talk about the newscaster journey. So I'm going to try and see how fast I can say this story. So to start off, the newscaster. So I wanted to be a newscaster. That's how I stopped, right? So how did I journey from law to mommy? I want to be a newscaster. Well, I've come to understand that our decisions are a makeup of the associations we keep, the partners we have, the collaborative influences that are around our life circle. That's how we come about the informed decisions that we make. So you're as powerful as an association, you're as powerful as collaborations that you have, you're as powerful as the influence around your life. So you need to be aware of the influences around your life. And especially when you're trying to understand the identity code, you must really understand what informs what you know, what informs what you think you know, what informs that which causes you to make decisions. You need to understand the level of influence around you and the power as to the degree they have over you. And I know you might think, what do you mean by favor? Like, what do you mean by power they have over me? What kind of power? But people are influences, and they have degrees of power and influence over your life. And unfortunately, some of these things are very obvious, but sometimes some of them are very subtle. So you might not even think someone has a level of influence unless you track it. And I'm saying this because a lot of times when I look at the decisions that I come or arrive at, when I trace it and track it, I realize that half of the time it's made up from the subtle conversations I've had here and there with people that, in quote, influences over my life. And some of them that are such great ideas, I see the influence of the powerful mentors and leaders and teachers that I have around me. And some not so great ones, I see the influences of some level of conversation that I've heard here and there that cause a warp-sided version of me arising to make a very warp-sided like kind of decision. And so, to the extent to this, I'm saying that when I said I want to be a newscaster, it wasn't necessarily a bad or a good decision. It was an informed decision that was based on the influence around me at the time. So back to the story. So at this time, one of my aunts had come into town. She was back in town for a few weeks. She was new. She was new back in town in terms of she lived in the city where I was living at the time. But she just came. I think she traveled. They took her away because of her job, and so this was her coming for like the holidays for like a month. And so my auntie was really excited to come back to Abuja, Nigeria at the time. And she was just like, I think we had a seat out, you know, you're like, oh, auntie, it's been a long time. Let's go for lunch. And so, yeah, we went for lunch. And I remember Auntie really was really an exciting person. So she was giving us stories about her job, how she's in love with her job, how it's the best thing in sliced bread, and how this was the best decision she ever made, and how purposeful her journey is so far. So Auntie is a newscaster to give her context. And Auntie loved the newsroom. She loved the whole thing. She loved the media. She loved the whole shebang from the TV. She's also a big part with radio and all of that. So she enjoyed the whole media experience. By the time Auntie was done with the conversation, whether I knew it or not, by subtle inference, I had assimilated information beyond what I thought I had. Because after I left that lunch outing, I became in love with Auntie's life. I started to imagine what my life would look like if it was Auntie's type of life. And I didn't know this at the time because guess what? I was thinking I'm sure I want to do law. I mean, at this time, how old was I? Maybe 14. I'm sure I want to do law. I love the law. I want to bring justice to people and all of that good stuff. However, now I'm at a crossroad because Auntie's job seems like heaven on earth. And obviously, at that time, there was this phrase I used to go on. I mean, it still goes on, where they say lawyers are liars. And I remember I would like, I want to be part of the people that change that terminology in the system. I want to change that phrase. We're not liars. We are people that uphold trust in society and in the system. I mean, if you met me at 14-year-old, and trust me, I could convince you to be a lawyer. Anyway, so moving forward, so after the luncheon, I got interested in newscasting. I wanted to be a newscaster. I didn't even know that I wanted to be a newscaster until I went to another program where one of my mom's friends was just chatting me up. And she was like, oh, so how am I doing? How is school? Since I'm in final year, am I excited? Obviously, unknown to me, she was already aware that I wanted to study law. I think based on interaction with my mom or something. So she was coming from the angle of, oh, I heard you're in art class. Do you want to study law? So she kind of thing you're trying to do, like you don't know the information about my life, but you're trying to act like I want to get the information from you directly. Anyway, whatever it was, I then answered, oh no, I don't want to study law. I want to be a newscaster. Say what? I didn't even know that I had changed my profession. Like I didn't know that I had assimilated what my auntie at the lunch said so much so that I not just designing her life, but now I wanted to live it. And this was a big deal because I didn't even know. Like, when you start to say something and your subconscious already picks something before your mind captures it, and you do not know the level of how much it has captured. That was exactly what happened to me. And so at this point, I was like, okay, well, I want to be a newscaster. So I smiled and she was like, why? I was like, oh, yeah, because obviously I want to use the power of my voice. I want to harness it. I want to bring light. So, you know how I talked about the beauty of how law is great and all of that, bring justice. So I just looked for the newsroom version, bring light to crimes. Imagine I'm an investigative reporter. So a dynamism between journalism and international relations. I mean, if you had my pitch back then, you think, oh my God, this vision must be cut from within. It's deep seated within her. She knows what she's doing. She's purposeful. I mean, when I start speaking English, trust me, sometimes it sounds like gibberish. Oh well, in terms of looking back now, I mean, not now, but looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, you're sounding like such a high sounding English person, But it was really gibberish because it was not founded from a place of seated vision. It sounded like it was. And that's why you can sound like purpose. You can sound like you know who you are. You can sound, the what's it called? They said the empty barrel makes the loudest noise. And that tells you that the noise or the level at which you're able to articulate that which you want to do does not validate to the extent of how seated within is that conviction of that which you're doing or the context of purpose in which what you're doing consists. And so it's to that extent that my life story really began because obviously this beautiful lady mom friend of mine obviously went back to my mom to relay what she heard and oh that's quite interesting. How is she handling that? Her daughter is now doing, you know, newscasting and all of that. That it's good to have good parents. I think she just said a passing comment. Obviously, my parents are the kind of people that, I mean, they are one of the people that helped in my building block foundation of identity capturing, because they helped me to really understand who I am in God and all of that. So luckily, and they're amazing parents. So luckily, they were deep seated in who they were and how they parented us. So my mom just smiled, so she didn't have to have an argument or a debate as to what I was becoming, even though she had not heard this particular new information. And so one random day, my mom, being tactical and very wise as she is, just engaged me in a conversation randomly. Okay, so are you applying for, like, what's the plan? Do you want to? I think at the time we were trying to write. No, we're not written. I think we're just trying to prepare for work. So she was like, which is the West African exam in Nigeria at the time, and so she was asking me questions in regards to um how well prepared I was, or something random in English. I can't remember at this point. But I remember that we ended up just getting to the conversation of profession. And at this point, I now say that, oh, yeah. Oh, I think she asked something about law, and I was like, oh, no, no, no. I want to know, I'm doing newscasting and all of that. And I was talking about the beauty of how the dynamics of the media world, and how, being the media girl, or journeying through using the power of my voice. At the time, I didn't know much about voiceovers, so what I knew mostly were, so I did spoken word to a level. I wrote poems. I did all of that. So, but I didn't know that I could even do other things in terms of, you know, at that time, YouTube channels were not as popular. Um, yeah, so it was, I just really felt like I wanted to harness the power of my voice beyond music. So, and one of the ways to do that would be press, would be media, would be newscasting, would be radio, that kind of stuff. Because I really knew that there was something with my voice, and I could harness the power of my voice. And for me, newscasting paved that journey for me to be able to do that in the newsroom, or so I thought. My mom took it so graciously. I mean, she was amazing. She was like, "Okay, that's good. That's not bad at all. Interesting." So I mean, she did not counter me. My mom is such a very wise woman, so she didn't counter me. She just kept questioning the the reasonings behind that was underpinning that which I was saying, and that was really just getting to the core. So my mom would skim conversations and would not tell you yes or no. She would just infer, and it's a good skill. She's good at it. It's also a skill you can use for negotiations as well. Just underlining, you're able to infer from different conversations where the heart of the matter is going, and use that to your advantage. Anyway, she tried to do that, and I don't know if she succeeded at that time, because she was very smart. She didn't try to dissuade me from the career choice. She didn't try to, take me anywhere else. She just said, "Oh, that's good. That's really good. So I can see you've thought about it. Have you thought it through?" "Yeah, yeah, I've thought it through." So obviously, so do you want to do international, or you want to do media? I said, I think international relations, because I could also work in the international sector, so it will be beyond just one part, or I don't want to also just be stampeded to one part and then one aspect of the media world. I was just really talking English. And my mom, bless her heart, was also just, listening to my stories and my jingles and all of that. Moving forward, we didn't she didn't dissuade me. She just, said so many things about the different careers in the art sector, whether it be political science, whether it be law, whether it be this, and all the different advantages and advantages. And we left the conversation at that. Fast forward to just before I went into uni. And I remember, obviously, all my art courses came. I was fine. I was able to, it was time to transit. I remember, oh, that's a story for another day about my English test. But I remember, like, being able to move forward now. It was now time to, like, pick a course of study so that I could go to school. I mean, it was no brainer. For so long in my life, I said law, and then now at the crossroad of decision, I changed all of study to newscasting. So, and now before me, I have choice one, choice two, or something like that. And I remember went back again to the conversation. Okay, so what are you thinking? You're thinking news international relation, right? And my mom said one statement, and that changed everything for me. What was it? She said, "Hmm." She said the lawyer is a better newscaster. Let's see what? A lawyer is a better newscaster. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, As a lawyer, I could still be a newscaster. That if it was her, she didn't even inform me. So, but as a newscaster, if I want to be a lawyer, I probably have to go back to school from the beginning. For lawyers, they could end up, journeying into the art world, because it's all media connected. But if I wanted to start out in the media phase and I wanted to even go back into my justice phase of, being representing clients in court and all of that, or even just journeying through the legal compliance and all of that, I would have to go back the whole journey. But if I was a lawyer, I could just get maybe a media course and or do an international relations certification or something in terms of depending on what media I'm even veered towards, and get a completion for that, or do an associate level training on that and journey through the career pathway. And I also saw a lot of examples that have transitioned from law to other things, but not necessarily other things into law, except if they went back again from beginning. Would I want to go back afresh? Not necessarily. Would I want to kill two birds with one stone? Most definitely. And so, your girl took the smart decision, became a lawyer. And for me, it was the fact that I didn't even know. So I had to. So what happened to me right there was okay. So I wasn't hasty. So I went back to drawing board and I was like, wait, why don't I become a lawyer? Why don't I become a newscaster? So I did like a whole for and against on my paper. And I said, okay, where is this one sitting within? I said, well, I believe that I'll be able to help people, empower people, or something all nice and good. So I looked at the other one. Where is this coming from? How did you even come about newscasting? And that's when I traced it to our auntie in the lunch. I didn't know that in the conversations, assimilation was happening in terms of the influence she was having at me. I didn't even know the level of influence she already had over me, in the sense that I wouldn't even think she had an influence. Neither will I even know that it was to the degree of my career path changing entirely. I mean, people actually do have influence over people. That's why I tell people, I said, your decisions are literally a makeup of the people or the influence around you. So you must be careful of that which is around you or who is around you, because there's a spirit behind man. For every time someone is saying something, there's a spirit behind that thing. Am I saying that it was diabolical for her to say that? No, I'm saying that you need to be aware of what influences or influences are around you, because whatever it is that's being influenced infers into your life. It comes into your life. It's inferred that you learn things based on the things you hear. The same thing with knowledge. It's that thing where it's knowledge happens from a place of conversation, discussion, information, instruction. Those are the things that causes knowledge to happen before you now go into the place of deeper knowledge, where you go to research, study, find out. But the first bits of knowledge comes from interactions, discussion, information being passed across around you. So even if it's above you, below you, beside you, you are being, so far as around you, there's a tendency, no matter how minute, cannot throw it away from the equation. There's that tendency of assimilation. And so that's why I always say, when you want to change a custom or a culture, people think you have to change the whole system. No, it's subtle. The beautiful trick, or the how it works, the code is being subtle in your ways. Think about it from the level of how can we do it without them even noticing the difference. And then how can, because it's those subtle differences that changes the mindset that causes the actions to be changed. Butterfly effect. One small changes, it looks like nothing's happening, but guess what? That one small change in the next 10 years can cause the whole earth to be around the climate crisis as we have today. And that's really how life works. So at that time, I now realized that, oh, this is coming from deep-seated conversation. This is coming from deep-seated over the time I've come into a place where, oh, okay, if God will have me walk in this path and in this route, how would I walk through it in the faster different places and processes? You know, on the other hand, this on the other hand came from a place of inference of having thinking that this was the ideal life, or in terms of her career seemed like such an amazing career choice, in terms of the ability to enjoy one's career could come from anything and everything. I have that level of joy in singing and being in the music career. It doesn't that make sense. Like, it's not based on what she's doing that causes that joy to overflow. It's based on her design and her alignment to her design that causes that joy overflow at work. So I could also choose the same career choice and become a newscaster, but maybe very miserable at it, yet good at it. So it's not to the extent of my skill that causes me to rest in purpose or to thrive in purpose. It's to the extent and the validity of how it aligns with the reason of my being on the earth that causes that thing to thrive, or rather not thrive, that causes the joy to overflow whilst it's thriving at work. Because something can you can be good at something, but it does not necessarily align to the extent of your purpose. Because I realize that when you are looking at purpose, purpose is the reason, is the why of your life. And if it's the why of your life, it can have many children, many expressions, many callings, many assignments. And unfortunately, what that looks like is there can be many doors that answers the one assignment. But it's to the extent as how closely matched is that door to the why that causes your choices to happen. Or be rather that should cause your choice to happen. So the choices I made when I entered into awareness and purpose discovery and identity discovery and uncovering all of that journey, what that looked like for me was, now this is now helping me identify the different doors I should open going forward. It's helping me identify different choices I should make going forward. And so that's why I'm saying that it's so critical to sit within your identity framework. Because when you sit in from the identity framework, it causes you to be, then it influences what you do. When you sit into the identity framework, it causes you to be, then it influences you to do. When you sit into purpose, everything else that you do going forward flows out from the very reason why you exist. So if there's no alignment to the extent and to the degree of why you are here, you realize that there'll be a lot of saying, there'll be a lot of no's you have to say to things to turn them down than yeses, and it's okay. And the very yeses that you're going to give will be to the extent that it aligns and matches to a large degree and extent the beauty and the design of your life's why. And so I'll see you in my next video where we'll keep going on the cracking journey of identity code. I am so excited because I want us to really understand everything in this journey, because as to it's so important to sit within your identity code, because when we are coming into the purpose conversation, purpose is as I don't want to go there because the whole point of making the video short will be extended. So I'll see you in my next class and have a beautiful day. Bye guys.